Students, I hope you all are safe and sound at home and doing your assignment plus revising the lessons. We shall meet as soon as the lockdown is lifted. Well, we have completed 4 chapters in history and today we shall do chapter 5, the Muslim League, Unit 1. I shall give you a brief introduction to the lesson, the formation of Muslim League or the Muslim League. The growth of communalism in India is a well-known factor that different religions coexisted in India for centuries. Some rulers, no doubt, showed fanatic zeal, but there was no communal rights. The revolt of 1857 was fought by Hindus and Muslims shoulder to shoulder against British authority. But all this underwent a drastic change towards the close of 19th century and communalism showed its ugly head. The British authority holds a very special responsibility for favoring the growth of communalism. After 1857, the British authority treated the Muslims with suspicion. In the army, their recruitment was limited. Even the civilian offices were denied for them. After the foundation of Congress by 1870, their concept and ideas completely changed, and the Muslims were given preferences. Remember, we learnt in the previous chapter the second phase in Surat Split 1907. The British followed the policy of concession for the moderates and Muslim, repression policy for the Hindus and Congress. This was done on a double purpose: to make friends by supporting the aspirations of one group and then counterpose one against the other. The British therefore tried to sow the seeds of discord between the Hindus and the Muslim to check the rising tide of nationalism. The British dubbed the national movement to create Hindu kingdom and encourage Muslims to set up their own separate political organization. It was this policy that instigated Muslims to form Muslim League in 1906. Now, let us see the factors that led to the formation of Muslim League in the year 1906. The first factor that led to the formation of the Muslim League is loss of sovereignty by Mughal rulers. Can you name the Mughal ruler? One was called the Great. Yes, it is Akbar the Great. Now let us see the factor which was responsible. After dethroning Muslim rulers, the Muslims became bitter enemies of the British. They aimed to end British rule in India. The British looked at them with suspicion, and after 1870, as I told you earlier, the British government changed their attitude and followed the policy of appeasement to undermine the national movement. Okay, they followed the policy of what? Appeasement, to pacify, to please the Muslims. That was done in order to undermine the national movement. The second one is the policy of divide and rule. The British became apprehensive of the safety and stability of their empire in India. They saw the unity of Hindus and the Muslims was a threat to them. Thus, to check the growth of united national feeling, they followed the policy of divide and rule. And in the year 1871, Lord Mayo made Urdu the medium of instructions for Muslims' educational schools. They tried to create hatred among Hindus and Muslims, portraying Muslims as plunderers and Hindus as cruel kings. Well, we'll see the third factor It is justification of partition of Bengal. The Britishers justified that Bengal was divided in order to safeguard the Muslim interest. They justified partition of Bengal by convincing Muslims that Bengal was partitioned in order to create a new Muslim province. They tried to utilize the caste structure to turn the non-Brahmins against the higher caste. They tried to spread communalism through press, posters, literature, and public platform. Before we learn the next factor for the formation of Muslim League, let's take a quick recap of the subheading that come under it. The first one was the loss of sovereignty. The second one, the policy of divide and rule. And the third, justification of partition of Bengal. Now, what will be the probable question for this unit? Why did the British follow the policy of divide and rule? The answer: the British became apprehensive of the safety and stability of their empire. They saw the unity of Hindus and Muslims was a threat to them. Hence, to check the growth of united national feeling, they followed a policy of divide and rule. The next expected question can be, how did the British justify the partition of Bengal? They justified the partition of Bengal by convincing Muslims that Bengal was being partitioned in order to create a new Muslim province. Now let us see how the relative backwardness in education, trade, industry led the economic backwardness to the Muslims. During the first 70 years of the 19th century, they were anti-British. The Muslims were conservative and hostile towards a modern education. Because of this, the number of Muslims educated in Western education remained very small. They were not recruited to civil and military services. The Muslims lagged behind in industries too. Their art and artistic work, which was famous once upon a time among the native rulers, was now not patronized by the British, and hence their art and artistic work kept crippling down. Since they were proud of their own literature and culture, they did not adopt Western system. On the other hand, the Hindus adopted the Western system of education, when modern education was one of the qualifications for the entry into government services. Since the Muslims were proud of their literature, they did not adopt themselves to Western and modern education, so the civil services and other services were closed for them. Not only this, the British began to fan or stir communal rivals among educated Indians, and hence the Muslim did not get an opportunity to join any of the services. The next factor is erroneous interpretation of Indian history. Some British and communal historians divided Indian history into Hindu and Muslim periods. The rule of the Turks, Afghans, and the Mughals was called the Muslim rule, whereas the rulers were said to be the followers of Islam and their subjects the followers of their own religion. In the so-called Hindu period, Muslim rulers were dubbed as foreign invaders who had settled in India. They portrayed Rana Pratap and Shivaji as national heroes, and Akbar and Aurangzeb as foreigners, and infused communal feeling. The communal bias was also propagated by the British through poetry, drama, novels, short stories, and newspapers. Some communal historians highlighted the myth that Indian society and culture had reached great heights during ancient period, but kept declining during the medieval period. The British and the communal historians ignored the notion of composite culture in India and tried to create a rift between the two communities, and this became an important factor for the formation of the Muslim League. Now let us see the role of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. An important factor which finally led to the formation of the Muslim League was what is often called the Allegra politics. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan realized that the educational backwardness of the Muslims led to fewer jobs. So he wanted to win favors from the British. He founded the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College at Allegra and later changed his views and declared that the political interests of the Hindus and the Muslims were different. He supported Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental Defence Association in order to promote loyalty to the British. He founded the United Indian Patriotic Association with a view to oppose the Congress. In this effort, he was supported by Mr. Beck, his full name is Mr. Theodore Beck, the British principal of MAO College. What does MAO stand for? Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. Beck's idea was that Anglo-Muslim unity was possible, but Hindu-Muslim unity was impossible. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan believed that since that Hindu formed the majority of Indian population, they would be dominated the Muslims in case of a withdrawal of the British rule from India. So it was Mr. Beck, one who instigated Sir Syed Ahmad Khan on communal lines, which he followed the rest of his life. Now let us learn how the formation of All India Muslim League took place on December 30th, 1906. The Muslim leaders were happy at the development, but the agitation of the Hindus against the new province increased day by day. To counteract this agitation, the Muslim leaders decided to form a central organization of their own, specially in view of ensuing reforms of the council. A large number of Muslim leaders met at Dhaka and the Mohammedan Educational Conference. Nawab Salimullah Khan of Dhaka proposed there to form a central association of Muslims to support the British government for the interest of the Muslims as a whole. The proposal was accepted and it was resolved that a political association called the All India Muslim League should be established, and thus it was established on 30th December 1906.